Jalen Thompson had never been the type to waste time. At just 16, he already had a vision, one bigger than most kids his age could even comprehend. While his classmates spent their afternoons playing video games or scrolling through social media, Jalen was busy stacking shelves and ringing up customers at the corner shop, a small convenience store in his neighborhood. It wasn't glamorous work, but to Jalen, every shift was another step toward his dream. From a young age, he had been fascinated by the idea of building something of his own. Not just any business, but a legacy, something that would lift his family out of the struggles they had faced for generations. His mother, a single parent, worked tirelessly to keep food on the table, and Jalen had seen firsthand what it meant to sacrifice. That's why every paycheck he earned, every tip he received, went straight into a jar labeled Future Empire. He wasn't saving for sneakers or video games. He was saving for a business. But not everyone understood Jalen's mindset. His classmates often chuckled when he talked about his ambitions. "Come on, Jalen," they'd say. "You really think you're going to be the next big entrepreneur? You work at a corner store, man." The doubt never bothered him. If anything, it fueled him. He had studied the stories of self-made business owners, people who had started with nothing and built something extraordinary. They had faced ridicule too, yet they proved everyone wrong. And Jalen? He was determined to do the same. One evening, as Jalen counted his savings behind the counter during a slow shift, he thought about what it would take to finally start his business. He had a plan, but what he didn't know was that life had something unexpected in store for him, an encounter that would change everything. Jalen tightened his grip on his backpack as he walked past the group of boys lingering outside the school gates. He had just finished a long day of classes and was heading straight to the corner shop for his evening shift. But before he could take another step, Toby, the school's most notorious loudmouth, stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "Well, well, if it isn't Mr. Minimum Wage," Toby sneered, his arms crossed as his friends chuckled behind him. "Still wasting your time stacking chips and counting pennies at that little shop?" Jalen exhaled slowly, already used to their ridicule. It wasn't the first time they had tried to humiliate him for working after school, but today, their words felt sharper, cutting into him like tiny daggers. "You really think that job is going to get you anywhere?" Another boy laughed. "Man, you're just another broke kid working a dead-end job. You should be out here having fun, not playing cashier." The group erupted into laughter, their voices ringing through the quiet afternoon. But Jalen refused to let their words sink into his skin. He knew why he was working. He had a plan, a real one, something none of them could understand. Instead of reacting, he adjusted his backpack and took a step forward, but Toby wasn't done. He reached out, knocking Jalen's cap off his head. "Chill, man. We're just messing with you. Don't take it so seriously." Jalen bent down, slowly picking up his cap, his fingers curling around the fabric. He wanted to say something, anything, to shut them up. But he knew better. Nothing he said would matter to them. They thrived on making others feel small. So, he did what he had always done. He kept his head high, ignored their taunts, and walked away. As he strode past them, he heard Toby's voice call after him. "See you at the register, boss man." More laughter followed, but Jalen didn't flinch. What they didn't know was that every hour he spent behind that register, every dollar he saved, was pushing him closer to something they could never imagine. They laughed now, but one day they wouldn't be laughing. One day they'd see exactly who Jalen Thompson had always known he could be. Every afternoon after school, while most kids rushed home to play video games or hang out, Jalen walked straight to the corner shop. It wasn't just a job to him. It was a classroom, a stepping stone to something greater. Every shift was an opportunity to learn, every customer an experience in patience, and every dollar he earned was a building block for his dream. Mr. Green, the shop's owner, had taken a liking to Jalen's work ethic. He saw the fire in the boy's eyes, the way he paid attention to everything, the way he listened when Mr. Green talked about profit margins, supplier negotiations, and seasonal stock management. It wasn't long before Jalen was staying after hours, not because he had to, but because he wanted to learn. "You remind me of myself when I was your age," Mr. Green chuckled one evening as he counted the register. "Most kids just clock in and out, but you've got a mind for business." Jalen smiled. "I don't just want to work here forever, Mr. Green. I want to own something like this one day. Maybe even this store." Mr. Green leaned back, crossing his arms. "Now that's ambition. Owning a business isn't just about money, though. It's about strategy, consistency, and knowing how to deal with people. You ready for that?" Jalen nodded without hesitation. "I've already started saving. I'm looking at investment options, too. Stocks, bonds, anything that can grow my money. I know it won't happen overnight, but I have a plan." Mr. Green studied him for a moment before nodding approvingly. "That's more than most adults can say. Keep that mindset, and you'll go far." At school, his friends couldn't understand why he was so obsessed with working. "Dude, why do you save so much? You could be buying new shoes, a better phone, something fun," they'd say. Jalen would just smile. "I'm building something bigger than a new phone." They didn't get it. They didn't understand that he wasn't just thinking about the next few months. He was thinking years ahead. Late at night, after finishing his homework, Jalen would sit in his room researching local businesses for sale, figuring out how much he needed, mapping out how long it would take to reach his goal. Every number, every detail, every step mattered. It was a long road ahead, but Jalen wasn't afraid. He was ready to prove that dreams weren't just something you talked about. They were something you built, one decision at a time. Jalen could hardly believe what he was hearing. Mr. Green, the man who had mentored him for over a year, was offering him the chance to take over the corner shop. It was the moment he had dreamed of, but it had come sooner than he had expected. You really think I can do it?" Jalen asked, his voice filled with excitement but also a hint of uncertainty. Mr. Green smiled. "Jalen, you've been running this place better than some owners I know. You understand the numbers, you treat the customers right, and most importantly, you have the drive. That's what makes a great business owner." Jalen felt his heart race. This was it. The opportunity of a lifetime. He had worked hard, saved every penny, and now the chance to own the store was right in front of him. But there was just one problem. He didn't have enough money to cover the full cost. Still, he wasn't going to let that stop him. "I want to do this," Jalen said firmly, "but I need to figure out how to make it work." Mr. Green nodded. "I figured that might be the case. That's why I'm willing to help. I'll give you a fair price, and I'll even let you pay in installments. I know you'll take care of this place." Jalen went home that night, his mind racing with calculations. He had saved up a lot, invested in stocks that had grown, but he was still short. He stayed up late crunching numbers, researching business loans, and even considering asking his parents for help. The next morning, he sat his parents down and told them everything. "Mom, Dad, I have a chance to buy the corner shop," he said, his voice filled with determination. "I have most of the money, but I need some help closing the gap." His mother exchanged a concerned glance with his father. "Jalen, we are so proud of you, but this is a huge responsibility," she said. "Are you absolutely sure you're ready for this?" Jalen nodded. "I've been preparing for this moment since I started working there. I know how to run it. I just need the last bit of funding." After a long discussion, his parents agreed to support him, not by giving him the money outright, but by co-signing a small business loan to help him secure the remaining amount. "If you're this serious about it, we'll stand behind you," his father said. For the next few weeks, Jalen worked harder than ever. He finalized the paperwork, met with loan officers, and secured the funds he needed. It wasn't easy, but every meeting, every form signed, and every financial plan made him feel more confident. And then, the day finally came. Jalen stood in front of the corner shop with Mr. Green, signing the final papers. The business was officially his. At just 16 years old, Jalen was now the owner of the very store where he had started as a part-time employee. As he held the keys in his hands, he looked up at the sign above the store. It was no longer just a job, it was his future. "You did it, kid," Mr. Green said, patting him on the shoulder. "Now, go make this place even better." Jalen smiled, his chest swelling with pride. He had proven to himself and to everyone else that his dreams weren't just wishful thinking. They were real, and this was only the beginning. Jalen stepped into the corner shop as its official owner, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But with it came an incredible sense of pride. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was his business, his future, and a symbol of everything he had worked for. The first thing he did was take a long look around. Every shelf, every register, and every product now fell under his leadership. He wasn't just running the store. He was building something greater. With a deep breath, he turned the sign to open and got to work. He wasted no time making improvements. He rearranged the layout to make the store more efficient, stocked shelves with products that customers had been asking for, and even introduced a small section dedicated to healthier snack options. To draw in more customers, he launched weekly promotions and personalized discounts for frequent shoppers. But Jalen knew that the success of the corner shop wasn't just about better products or sales, it was about community. He made sure to greet every customer personally, remembering names and preferences, making them feel valued. He also started a rewards program for local students, offering discounts on school supplies and snacks for kids who brought in good grades. Slowly, the word spread. People in the neighborhood took notice of the changes, and customers started showing up more frequently, not just for the products, but because they wanted to support Jalen. His story inspired many, a 16-year-old taking over a business and turning it into something greater. One afternoon, while restocking shelves, Jalen saw a familiar face walk in. Toby, the very same bully who had laughed at him for working at the store. But this time, Toby wasn't smirking. He looked around the store, noticing the changes, then walked up to the counter. "You really own this place now?" Toby asked, his tone filled with disbelief. Jalen simply nodded. "Yeah, I do." Toby hesitated, then reached into his pocket, placing a few items on the counter. "Guess I'll just pay for these," he muttered. Jalen rang up the items, handing Toby his change with a knowing smile. "Thanks for shopping at the corner shop." Toby nodded awkwardly and left, and as Jalen watched him walk away, he couldn't help but smile. The same people who once doubted him were now supporting his business. He had proved them all wrong, not with words, but with action. And this was just the beginning. Toby scoffed at the business card in his hand, turning it over as if it had to be some kind of joke. But the bold lettering, Jalen Thompson, owner, the corner shop, was very real. The rest of the group leaned in, their smug expressions fading into something closer to shock. "You're joking, right?" Toby muttered, his confidence faltering. Jalen leaned casually against the counter, completely at ease. "Nope, I bought the store from Mr. Green, been running it ever since." The silence that followed was almost comical. The same boys who had once laughed at him, mocked him for working after school, and treated his ambition like a joke were now standing in his store, spending their money at his business. One of the other boys, Liam, frowned. "Wait, so you actually own this place? Like for real?" Jalen nodded. "For real." Toby glanced around the shop, noticing how much had changed. The shelves were better stocked, the displays were cleaner, and the place just felt different, more professional, more successful. "Damn," he muttered under his breath. Jalen didn't say anything, just let the moment sink in. He had nothing to prove to them. His success spoke for itself. Finally, Toby cleared his throat, trying to regain some of his usual bravado. "Well, I guess that's cool, I mean, it's still just a store, right? Jalen smirked. It's not just a store. It's a business. My business. And it's only the beginning. The words hung in the air. The bullies, now visibly uncomfortable, shuffled their feet. They had spent years looking down on Jalen, believing he would never amount to anything. And now, they were standing inside the very thing they had mocked him for. Toby sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, man, I guess we were wrong about you. Jalen didn't gloat, didn't rub it in. He simply shrugged. Yeah, you were. Then, in a final twist neither Toby nor his friends saw coming, Jalen reached into the register, pulled out a receipt, and scribbled something on the back before handing it to Toby. Here, Jalen said, in case you ever need a job. Toby stared at the receipt, his face turning red, while his friends tried to suppress their laughter. Without another word, Jalen turned his attention back to the customers, lining up at the register. As the bullies walked out, one of them muttered, Man, we used to laugh at him. And another replied, Yeah. And now he's laughing at us. Word spread fast. Jalen Thompson, the kid they used to mock, wasn't just running a store. He was becoming a neighborhood success story. His business thrived, attracting more customers every day. People admired his work ethic, and soon, local newspapers featured his journey from a part-time employee to a young entrepreneur. Meanwhile, Toby and his crew weren't getting the attention they were used to. The tables had turned, and instead of being the ones making fun of Jalen, they found themselves on the receiving end of whispers and side glances. Hey, aren't you the guys who used to laugh at Jalen? Someone asked them at school one day. Toby shrugged it off, but he could feel the sting of reality setting in. While Jalen was getting recognition and respect, they were being left behind. People didn't see them as the cool kids anymore. They saw them as the ones who had tried to drag someone down, only for him to rise even higher. One afternoon, as Toby walked past the corner shop, he noticed the line of customers wrapped around the block. The store was busier than ever. Jalen stood behind the counter, smiling as he rang up purchases, his employees working efficiently around him. It was clear, Jalen wasn't just running a small store, he was running a growing business. Toby hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside, ignoring the looks from other customers. Jalen noticed him, but didn't seem surprised. Need something, Toby? He asked, his tone neutral. Toby swallowed his pride. Yeah. I was wondering if you're still hiring. For a moment, there was silence. Then Jalen smirked, remembering the job application he had jokingly handed Toby weeks ago. Funny how life works, huh? Jalen said, grabbing a form from under the counter. Fill this out, and we'll see. Toby took the paper, feeling the full weight of his past actions. He had spent years tearing Jalen down, only to end up asking him for a job. It was instant karma in the best way possible. Jalen stood behind the counter of the corner shop, watching as customers came and went. The once small, overlooked convenience store had become a thriving community hub. Shelves were stocked with fresh inventory, and a new section for local goods had been added. The place was alive with energy, filled with laughter, conversation, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee from the self-serve station he had installed. Employees, most of them young people from the neighborhood, worked diligently, ringing up customers, restocking items, and assisting with daily operations. Jalen had gone from being a part-time cashier to a full-fledged business owner, and now he was providing opportunities for others just like him. As he walked through the store, greeting customers and ensuring everything was running smoothly, he caught sight of a familiar face, Mr. Green. The former owner had stopped by to see how his old shop was doing. You've really made this place your own, Jalen, Mr. Green said, nodding with approval. I knew you had it in you. Jalen smiled, shaking his mentor's hand. I couldn't have done it without everything you taught me. Just then, the door opened, and in walked a group of high school students, some of whom had once laughed at Jalen's ambition. They no longer saw him as the kid working behind. The counter. They saw him as a leader, a success story, someone who had turned his dreams into reality. Toby, the ringleader of those who had mocked him, lingered at the entrance, hesitating. He had started working at the shop a few weeks ago after swallowing his pride and accepting the job Jalen offered. Though they never spoke about the past, the lesson was clear. Jalen had proven them all wrong, not with words, but with action. As the evening rush died down, Jalen stood outside the shop, looking up at the sign that now carried his name. The weight of everything he had accomplished settled over him, not as pressure, but as pride. He had come a long way from being the kid everyone doubted. He had turned adversity into success, proving that no dream was too big and no challenge too great. With one last look at the bustling store, Jalen took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next, because his journey was just beginning.